Now, no doubt that digging up the past will give new life to stories that time has silenced. And you know, that is a huge part of what has sparked many people's interest in their family tree, because you never know what you're going to find. Historian Mike Dixon is here with some fascinating facts. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Well, thank you for having me.
So it is true, you never know what you're going to find. And do I understand you have a little bit of a story about a letter from Elkton?
I do. So, you know, I've been doing this for decades, and you truly never know what you're going to find. So one day we were helping an old property get sorted out its history. Okay. And I had a crew of volunteers up in the attic of the building. And you know what? This is like, don't ask what's in your wallet, ask what's in your attic. So we're sorting through this stuff, and it was an enormous amount of clutter. And that afternoon, one of the volunteers called me. She was like really excited. She says, you know, I think I found a letter from Thomas Jefferson. Well, that kind of caught me off guard, and I looked at this letter. It had been stashed away in a whole bunch of Diamond State Telephone Company invoices, envelopes from the 1930s. And somebody put it there for safekeeping. Well, you know how easy it would be to look at that stack of envelopes and say, junk?
Yeah.
Well, our volunteer was, boy, she was doing her due diligence. And here was this perfect letter, and he's getting ready to become president, and he's writing about this. My first reaction was, gosh, this is worth like a lot of money. And the expert that I'm not on valuations, I thought, oh, this must be worth $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000. But I knew I needed an expert, and I couldn't figure out, you know, where do I get a real expert? Because this is has to do with the nation's history and scholarly, the highest level of things. Right. I remember seeing a guy on TV, you know, that those TV antique shows. I said, well, let me call Christie's in New York City. Yeah. Well, he took my call and says, well, send me an image and I'll be back with you in a little while and we'll give you a quote. And I'm thinking, this is going to cost a lot of money for evaluation. About 15 minutes later, he's calling back. I can get the Amtrak. I can be there in the Excella. I can be in Wilmington at 8:30.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and I thought, why is he so excited? Well, turns out this letter was worth $700,000.
Oh my goodness.
And it had been stored away in an attic. Now, that's an outlier.
An old phone records.
And, but I have found letters from Abraham Lincoln.
Right.
Other valuable, and lots of valuable to a person's family. So
right.
Pay attention to that attic.
Pay attention to that attic. Oh my goodness. So let me ask you this. If somebody wants to start on their genealogy, they want to go back to their roots. Where do they start?
Well, today there is really good news because so much is digital with free sites like FamilySearch.org. Right. Things that you used to have to go to the library for. Ancestry. Of course, we all know about Ancestry because it's a subscription service. But visit your public library. There's a chance, and many of them across Delmarva do, they'll have free access to Ancestry. Often you got to go there to the library, but you know, Jimmy, one of the first things I do is when I'm traveling in a new area, I make friends with the local reference librarian because they are the experts, and they'll say, oh, we've got this database and things. But get started with those basic tools like Family Search and Ancestry. Family Search, you can get it from your home. Right.
I've seen people love to go to cemeteries.
Oh.
I take it that's a good source right there.
I will probably visit a cemetery before I leave Salisbury this afternoon, because I'm going to go down to the NAB Center. You know, in addition to searching the textual material, the newspapers and things like that, there's a lot of history in those cemeteries. And I go looking for the stones and the memorials and the dates. And then I look at the cluster around them. And you know, a walk through a cemetery like some of the grand ones you have here in Salisbury, you talk about a walk through time and history. And every one of those people. And I'm always curious about what they knew and what their time was. So that's a very important part of my field work.
Listen, you and I could do this all afternoon. Can you hang on just a second?
Sure.
Okay, hang on just a second. We're going to take a quick break because I got more questions for you.
Okay.
Stick around. Delmarva Life will be right back. So, what about your family? Where does it go? Where does it start? How did you get where you are? That's what we're talking with historian Mike Dixon about. We got started about genealogies and family history and stuff. And you mentioned some websites that you can go to that I've done too. What do you do when you start looking back and you find a point where you get stuck?
So, for instance, as soon as I leave you today, I'm going to go to the NAB Center. Here in Salisbury, you have this really strong Delmarva History and Culture Research Center. And as easy as digital things make it, like Family Search and Ancestry,
Right.
there are think of all of the papers ancestors leave in the course of a lifetime.
Yeah.
And as you go up against the brick walls and you need to break them down, I spent a lot of time at the Delaware Public Archives too. And you know that, it could be the same in Pennsylvania, Maryland, New Jersey, it doesn't matter where you're talking about. Those places are so full of papers that have not been digitized. If I'm willing to do the background work, the investigation, you can knock out a lot of mysteries.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. I mean, it is really engaging to put your family history together, find how they lived, what their lives were about, just how their time went.
It's gonna take time to chase things out.
Oh yeah, yeah. Now, when you start, you'll probably get the bug because first of all, it's easy with digitization.
Right.
You can go to newspaper sites that the librarians will help you with that are digitized, and you can go to like the Daily Times, and you can type in anybody's name. In a couple moments, here they come flying out, all of these hits. And it really changes the nature of the work I do, because I had to sit in front of a microfilm reader and wait to make an appointment at the library. Now, you know, I can pick up a topic and all sorts of information comes out.
Okay, so what would be your number one piece of advice when it comes to somebody who's wanting to track out their family history?
Oh, I've got 2 or 3. Can I do 2 or 3 quickly?
Okay, 2 or 3.
Go to the attic.
Okay.
But the important point there is look at your family documents. What's in the family Bible? What are the old photos that are passed away? And you know, they put them in that attic for a reason. And then go to sites like Family Search and Ancestry. And 3, interview your family members. You got a 90-year-old, you got an 80-year-old or 70-year-old, you've got a treasure of information. And that will get you started.
And they've got stories.
And they have stories. And the stories are what it's really about. Yeah.
Why does this mean so much to you? Why do you enjoy this so much?
Well, you know, I have been doing this since over 40 years now.
Yeah.
And it constantly engages me. I'm fascinated with the stories as I travel around Delmarva, as I talk to people, fascinating stories. And then I turn that into my professional scholarship and my work, whether it's looking at railroads or the Spanish flu. What I do is, my whole area of expertise is social history. So it's the history of everyday people, the people that didn't get the headlines and didn't get the books written about them. Just folks who were going through life, and you can piece together their story.
Well, I got to tell you the truth. Your excitement is absolutely contagious.
Thank you.
Historian Mike Dixon, thank you so much for talking to us today.